it's 4 decades now, basically, for the pair of you in this business. And you're again poised on this album release. You've got the tour going on, which is going to arrive in the UK very shortly. Do you still get the same buzz, the same sense of excitement now that you always had?
Yes.
Yeah, it's and I have to say this without sounding weird. It's always good for us to come to the UK and even Europe, and just because the reception that we've gotten has just been awesome. I remember the last I think the last show that we did together, as the Dead Daisies, was we played the Coco Theatre in London, and it was brilliant. It was amazing. So the UK has always kind of embraced everything that we've done, like right from the beginning. So it's always good to go over there and play for everybody. And then again, Doug and I do enjoy our Guinness and bangers and mash and stuff like that as well. So that's always a plus as well.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I get the same feeling. I was thinking about it, it was like because I've been doing a bunch of interviews talking about me and John knowing each other since we were kids, or since late 70s when I met him, and we used to go down and see John play down in the club in Jersey, and it was exciting, going out on a Friday night to see John play, or to like every other day, I would be on the weekend, practicing music and grabbing my guitar and trying to learn how to get a guitar sound better, and just the whole thing. And it's still the same. Now I'm over 60 and it's still the same. I'm still trying to get my sound right. I'm still trying to get better. I love to play guitar, and I get to work with this guy. It doesn't suck, man. It's pretty good.
David's message to you, John, last year was, let's go out. Let's have some fun. Let's write some killer music, play some killer shows, and do it all without killing ourselves. So, I mean, this was a big thing, wasn't it? Because you didn't want to suffer the same type of burnout this time round.
Well, it's just weird, like for all of us. I mean, if you really look at what we accomplished between, honestly, 2015 and, January of 19, when I told the guys, like, I just needed a break. It was funny. I tell everybody, like, prior to me joining the band in 15, I just got married in like August of 2014. My son moved from LA to Nashville to play drums for my solo band. And then literally like 3 or 4 months later, we were out doing our thing and whatever. And then the Daisies called, and I wound up joining the band, and I started with them, really truly started in like March. And we did our first record, immediately went on tour, and we finished the year up. Richard and Dizzy obviously went back to Guns N' Roses. Doug came into the picture. And instead of continuing to tour and promote that record, we went right back in and did another record. So we technically did 2 albums in the first year that I was in the band, and then all the touring. And then after that, it was like tour, record. Tour, record. And, by the end, it was like I had my son in one ear telling me, you suck. I moved to Nashville to be in your band, and now I don't see you at all. And then every time I would come home from a tour, my wife would be standing in the doorway with a gun because she didn't recognize me. You know what I mean? So I was just like, I told David and Doug and our management, I just said, look, man, I'm sorry. I thank you guys for everything, but I just need a fucking break here for a minute. and just get off this carousel. And I went and I worked, but I kind of did it at my own pace, but then COVID hit and it was funny. Last year I was on tour. David called and he came down here to Nashville and he said, like, we want to bring the fun back. He basically was like, okay, you're a complete fool on stage. We love it. You're the voice of the Daisies, and are you rested? And I was like, yep, I'm good to go. And he assured me that the reason why he put the band together was for not just the audience to have fun, but for all of us individually to have fun. And he said, I want to do this, but I want to be smarter now and not have anybody get burnt out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I honestly, to be honest with you, I think they've taken it so far the other way that I'm like, I think we could play a little more, but whatever. It's all good.
So the album, Light 'Em Up, it feels like the natural successor to Burn It Down.
Yeah, it's it's like starting fresh but coming full circle and starting fresh again. Like, as John said, in the beginning of 16, we worked on Make Some Noise together, and it was a really cool thing. It was like a family vibe, and the way that we wrote songs, the way that Marty produced the band, everything felt really like a community where everyone was working together on the same page. It didn't matter where the song idea came from. We were trying to make everything as best it could be. And, just naturally, when you bring other people into an equation, it changes. But when we got with John, it just felt like, being home again. And we didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but we weren't really talking about making a record. It just kind of happened. We were thinking about putting out one song. John had I'm Gonna Ride, and that was going to kind of be the song we were going to lead with. Just have it, just be like, here's John Corabi, I'm Gonna Ride, back in the Dead Daisies. And then it turned into a full album, kind of out of nothing. And it was recorded really quick and everything, but with Marty and John, it definitely feels like we jumped back 3 or 4 years back to that time again. It's cool.
There's no pretense here. This is a rock and roll album. It's full of meaty, chunky riffs. It's got big anthems. It's got big choruses. It's all over and done with in 36, 37 minutes. There's no meandering 8-minute tracks. There's nothing prog related here. It is pure rock and roll.
Yeah, and it's really weird. Like I can't state this enough, like and I can't speak for Doug or anybody else, but for me, I've never been in a band that works as fast as we do. It's weird. It's not unusual, even lyrically. Like if I get stumped on something and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what I'm going to say here. It's not unusual for me to go to Doug or David or now Michael Devin and just get an idea for a lyric, a title. Give me something. You know what I mean? There's really no egos in the band. We all contribute musically. And then if I need help.
Wait. John, you said there was no leaders in your band. You said there's no leaders in your band. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had to.
No, there's no egos. You know what I mean?
Oh,
we're all open to suggestions and shit from all the other guys. Again, I've never, even with Doug, like as brilliant as he is on guitar, I've never been involved with a guitar player that's like, hey dude, I'm gonna go do my solos, why don't you come and sit in a room with me, and if you hear anything, just let me know. So
Tim, wait, Crab, sorry, I have to say, because you just brought up a really good point, and I need Tim to know the truth. Tim, Did you ever, Tim? Did you?
Here
ever
we go.
Did you ever hear that thing? It's a phrase like people would go, "Okay, God first, family second, I am third." Right?
Yeah.
Well, I have a little slightly different one. I have God first, family second, and John Corabi's third. Third place goes to John Corabi. He gets the bronze medal for me. I'm fourth. I'm actually fourth. So that's why I invite John to come in and basically tear me down. When I put down a solo, I'm ready for him to go, "That was fucking bullshit, Doug. Come on, man." All right.
Get your shit together. Come on.
How? I mean, seven albums in 11 years. How difficult or how easy do you find it when you go into the studio not to replicate what you've already done, to come up with something that is different, something that's, something that you haven't done before? I mean, is it easy for you or not?
Honestly, we don't think about it.
Right.
It's just, even like with this last record, we set up a Dropbox folder and everybody just started throwing riffs in this thing. And we get together and we all sit in a room, a little old school. We sit in a room with all the instruments, headphones. We're all sitting there and we're just throwing ideas against the wall to see what sticks. And I think we just kind of let the songs do what they're going to do. And the cream, not to sound cliched, but the cream rises to the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
8-10 songs we put on the record, they're the ones that, it's like initial gut reaction thing too. I think when you start overthinking things, then shit starts getting sterile. It's overthought, and we don't do that.
It's a great start to the album, by the way. The opening track, it's always such a pivotal moment because if you get it wrong, it sets the tone for the whole album. But the riff was fantastic, and you've been talking about the riff because it was delivered from Stevie D from Buck Cherry.
Yeah. He had a song. It's Marty is, first of all, because John, I know him, I can speak for John on this one thing for sure. I can say that Marty is an incredible musician, songwriter, and producer. So when we're working with him, he can take something that we know has potential and he can make it become the best it could have been. And it's great. It's such a confidence, to have him and as part of the team, like the sixth band member. So he produces a lot of people, as you know, and he produces Buck Cherry. And poor Stevie sent this song in that was supposed to be for the Buck Cherry record. And Marty, we were thinking about, doing something up tempo, and Marty goes, "Man, I got this riff, man, that Stevie sent in the song, but I think the riff sounds like you guys." I just wanted to say that Stevie presented that song for Buck Cherry, and we stole it, and within a couple of hours, we took that riff and rewrote around it, and then John and Marty came up with the hook, and it was in a couple hours, right, John? That thing came together.
Yeah. It was... Again, it's really funny. Like, I've never been in a band that puts songs together as quickly as we do. And I just mentioned this earlier, and I don't even know if Doug realizes this, but the guys came here to Nashville, and the amount of time that we spent together working on this record, there was a couple little things that I finished after they left, but the amount of time that we worked on the record, and as a side note, we didn't just do the Light 'Em Up record. We actually did 2 records. So we did the Light 'Em Up record, and then we did some recording down at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals.
Right.
And while we were there, about 5:30, 6 o'clock, our manager or Marty would walk through with some wine or whiskey or something, and then we were off to the races. But we actually did a blues record as well, which is coming next year.
Wow.
But we did 2 full records in like 29 days in
That's
total.
incredible.
Yeah. it's really crazy, and it's a testament to, Doug and David and Michael, whatever. It's just everybody's input. Shit just happens fast for this band. I've never done a record as quickly as I have with the Dead Daisies, ever.
Got no reason for looking back. Got to keep moving or get left behind. Now that could almost be the mantra for the band, But that's off of again another great track. Times are changing, but a really really nice line. I love it. Love that.
Yeah, that's definitely that was something that actually Marty brought to the table. Because again, like Doug was saying, we're not, Marty's not just a sound guy or a tone guy. He's a songwriter. So he had that riff, and then he showed it to us, and we all just got into the room, and Doug made it his own on guitar, and then worked on some lyrics. Marty and I changed a few things, but it's just easy, man. I can't explain it. I can't be any more blunt than that. So
somebody was channeling, I got the feeling, their inner Rolling Stones on I Want to Be Your Bitch, because as soon as that kicked in, I'm thinking this has got such a really sleazy swagger to it, and I almost in my mind I can see Jagger just sashaying across the stage. It's got that real Rolling Stones feel.
That's interesting. I mean, we don't really know. We don't know what everyone's got a different thought or feeling about it, but that's cool. I'm glad that it comes across like that, especially the sleazy part. We got that part from Corabi. It's been like that forever.
And that did feed, by the way, into, I mean, you can't help it, can you? Because you've been involved in the music industry for 4 decades each. Your influences are bound to come through. So I rolled off of the Stones vibe, and it fed into a bit of an AC/DC vibe on the road anthem, I'm Gonna Ride. I mean, it just had a bit of an Angus thing going. I mean, this is all a good thing, by the way.
Well,
that was. Sorry, John. Go ahead. Go.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, John had that song for a while actually, and he presented it to the band, and we didn't really understand it at the time, but then we got excited about it, and that was a for sure that was going to, we were going to record that song, and the interesting thing is that's another song that was written by a guy with John from Buck Cherry.
Right.
So tell him.
Yeah, I wrote that with, I actually, it was right before the Daisies called me. I was in LA, and I got together with Keith Nelson, and I showed him the riff, and we tweaked a few things, whatever, on the riff, and then we recorded it at his studio, and then I brought it home to work on lyrics, which I never did. I never finished it. And then when the Daisies were, when we all got together, we created that Dropbox, I just threw it in there, and I'm like, there's something cool about this track. I had the title, but I never actually sat down and started working on the lyrics. And David, honestly, is really a huge AC/DC fan.
As he would be.
Yeah, he's obviously Australian, so...
He used to have Back in Black on his telephone, didn't he? That was his ringtone, was Back in Black.
Yep.
And he still does.
Oh, he still does.
Yeah.
Your voice is in great shape. I mean, you were talking about, staying fit. You're in your 60s now, but you obviously have a gene, a longevity gene, because your voice is one of those. You're lucky enough that the older you get, the better it's sounding. It's got a really mature, deep feel to it. And it fits perfectly. And you're giving it some workout on this album. I mean, there's nothing dialed in here.
You know what, though? I've had people ask like, "What do you do, dude, to keep your voice?" And I'm like, I have no fucking idea because I pretty much I look at the things that you shouldn't do, and I go, "Well, fuck, I do all those." I'm drinking cold soda on stage. I've smoked most of my life. I drink. But I think the thing of it is that a lot of my counterparts, I never was really excessive about anything.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I have my moments where it's like I go to a bar and I drink and I'm, walk back to my room on my face. But it's rare. I don't really. I don't know. I've never been like an excessive with anything. So that's the only thing I can attribute it to is that, and to be honest with you, even though I did the Motley thing and I've been doing this for 40 years, as you so eloquently stated, I never did like Coke or I never did any drugs. So I was always like a weed and drinking guy.
I got to mention one more track here. And this is one of the best tracks on the album, I think, and it might surprise you because it is the ballad, Love That'll Never Be, because I think it has, again, it has one of those classic 80s and 90s power ballad feels to it. And I'll tell you what, when Steven Tyler hears it, he'll be on the phone seeing if you can borrow that for Aerosmith. It sounds like a classic, Tyler, from Pump and Get a Grip. It's a great song that could turn into one of those moments where you get, a surprise massive hit because somebody's included it in a movie. But great track.
Well, from your mouth
lips,
buddy.
Exactly.
And you've been involved as well, Doug, with Whitesnake. You know the power of a big rock ballad.
Yeah, there's there's all the benefits that come with that, and that song it's a great song. I think that when people hear the album, they're gonna, it's a good, the way that Marty sequenced the record is really cool. Everything kind of, it feels like a classic 70s record, like how we grew up on.
Yeah.
And so when you get to the end of it, and one of my favorite tracks is the last cut, is Take My Soul. That was a song that we were jamming. As John said, we'd be down at Fame Studios. We'd start having a couple glasses of wine. We're talking about all the stuff that went down in the studio. Ultimately, it's like, hey, let's get out and jam this song. And we were jamming on Terraplane Blues, I think John had suggested we jam on. And then that led into that riff. And then all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, this is our own song now. And so we had that music, and then John really spent a lot of his own, personal time behind the scenes, and he came in and he's like, man, I think I got something really deep for that. And it's a great track. So you get to the end of the record, you hear this really deep cut, kind of a cornerstone track, and then you're going to go back to the fire in the beginning. It's really cool.
And the end result, when you all sat down in the room and listened back to the completed album, were you surprised at what you heard? Were you surprised at the quality of what you'd put together? Was it above your expectations?
For me, it's just, I get excited about every record we've done because it's like to see something start with just a riff idea, and then somebody adds this to it, the other guy adds that to it, and then Marty puts his 2 cents in, and you kind of watch this thing develop from just a riff to a song, and then we sit down and we work on melodies and work on the lyrics. And then even when I'm doing that, like I'm singing things, Marty and I are changing shit as I'm singing it. And then he'll go, oh, hey, try this harmony here or try this harmony there. And it's, you just watch the thing go from like a riff to a song. And then when you sit back and you listen to the whole record as a whole, I just kind of sit there, even, with my wife, we listened to the record a few times, and even she was like, I don't know how you guys do this shit. Like, it's just like, I heard some of these riffs in the beginning, and now this record is fucking awesome. Like, it just, and it, even with me, it ceases to amaze me how, like I said earlier, in a period of, 29 days, 5 goofballs can get into a room and just hammer shit out and come out with something, that is, for lack of a better term, it's a kick-ass record. So just to watch it develop is still, I'm still dumbfounded by the whole process.
Did you have any fear, right, when you all got back together again, that the magic that was there would maybe not return? Because it's never easy, is it, to just walk back in, pick up where you left off, and then improve on what had gone before?
I would say, well, I was just going to say, I definitely, we were excited to be working with the team of John and Marty together. And I knew that no matter what we came up with, it was going to be better for that team, and the way that we work, as we already mentioned, we all got invested. We all got a stake in the game with each song, even if it comes from David Lowy or it comes from John or it comes from me or Michael. Michael came up with a great song on the record, and doesn't matter. We just all work on it to make it the best it could be. But the secret weapon is Marty's background of songwriting. And we also had his son, Evan Fredrickson, on drums. He brought it on the album, the perfect groove. He's kind of like the modern day Jeff Beccaro, like he's an amazing studio musician and brings the best out of each song. And it just, so the confidence, I felt like there was a confidence from knowing that we were going to be in Marty's studio. And of course, you're nervous in the beginning. We got basic ideas and stuff. You're nervous, not nervous, but you're kind of like unsure what's going to work out, but that at the end, it's going to be something cool. And we could tell after we got a couple of songs on the board that were good, solid starting places, that we knew that we were going to have a good record. And then it just got better, I mean, we really love it. So hopefully everybody else will.
And pretty much every track that is on that album will translate into a great event if you wanted to play any of them, in the live show. I mean, you could almost take the album and play the album start to finish in the show. I mean, have you ever thought about that, doing part 1, which is this is the new album, and then doing, I don't know, 3 or 4 cuts from the previous albums? Is that ever a thought? Because it would be, there's not one song on there that doesn't look as if it's going to be a great live track.
John, I think he's onto something, but I really don't want him to know that he's onto something. Let's tell him that it was a great idea, but it's our idea.
Out from under now.
Yeah, we already thought of that, Tim. We thought of that already. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks. The idea, buddy. Next. No. Anyway, I got to tell you this about, I don't know, it was probably 6-7 years ago. My wife is a huge Iron Maiden fan. And Iron Maiden did a tour of America where they only did maybe 5 shows in America. Chicago was one of the places. So I got her tickets. I got her 2 tickets. I couldn't go. So her and a friend went up and they drove up. And she got back from the show and she was pissed. Because Iron Maiden walked on stage and they played the entire new record.
Yeah, I remember.
And the thing of it is, at this kind of point in the game. I think, we've done, 7 studio records. You're never going to please everybody, but there are certain songs that people want to hear. You know what I mean? They want to hear Long Way to Go. They want to hear Make Some Noise. They want to hear, they want to hear some of the new stuff. You know what I mean? So it's getting a little tedious to put a set list together where we cover all the bases. But I mean, and to boot, obviously, if you've been following the band, there's been 3 singers in the band. So we try to do some stuff and tip the hat to John Stevens. We try to tip the hat to Glenn Hughes, and and then fill in the blanks. So it's getting harder as we go. And it's inevitable. We're going to get off stage and we'll go meet with some of the audience members, as we're getting back on the bus, and somebody's going to go, "Hey man, you didn't play We're an American Band," or "You didn't play, We All Fall Down," or you know what I mean? So it's hard. It's getting harder, but your idea, no, we're not going to do it.
Touring, do you view it today now with more vigor because of what everybody endured during the pandemic, when a lot of people wondered whether or not we would ever get back to seeing live music in live venues again?
Doug?
Well, yeah, I felt that way. I was wondering too if we were going to get back like we are now, with concerts and sporting events. But thankfully, we got through that, and we definitely, it was the first couple shows coming back after the pandemic were really exciting. It just went by so fast. But as time's gone on, speaking for myself, I really appreciate the opportunity more than ever to be able to travel and play these songs for people. And it's because, we always try to play with vigor. We always are told, we tell each other, let's make this is the best show ever, But and you're always trying to get better. But yeah, I think that the appreciation level is up there because of what we went through.
Are there any specific venues then and cities in the UK that have any special significance for you? Not necessarily with the Daisies, but when you look back at all of your careers, are there any places where you think, yeah, I remember that, and this is the place that I loved more than any other?
Honestly, I'm still a bit of a music history buff-ish, whatever. So, I still, every time I come to the UK, I still think of my first trip with the Scream. And I was just I just remember the plane ride over. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to the place, the Beatles, the Stones, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Queen, David Bowie, all these great bands came out of England. So coming over there, is always a high for us. You know what I mean? Yeah. And to boot, as I said early in the conversation, the UK has really embraced everything the Daisies have ever done. So again, I know it's the simple things in life, especially after the COVID thing. I love getting together with my brothers again and coming over to England, playing for the fans. And then it's just cool at the end of the night to belly up to the hotel bar and sit and bullshit with Doug and David and talk about the show and just have a cold pint of Guinness. You know what I mean? It's, it's awesome.
Do you remember the first time you played in the UK, Doug?
Oh yeah. The first time I think was with Dio, and it was nerve-wracking because of, like what John said, all these bands, and Ronnie was kind of I would say Ronnie was a wannabe Englishman. You know, he loved England, he loved Britain, and so everything felt. I mean, like everything about Ronnie was about that, and coming to the UK was very important, and I felt a little bit of pressure, and so I'll never forget that. And then, of course, you know, we spent a lot of time with Whitesnake in the UK. That's one of David's biggest strongholds, and I just think about like what John said. You know, we've been coming there for a long time, and it's always something. It's always special. It's a different. The UK is just different than anywhere else in the world. There's no place like it. Just like Japan, you know, it's really very unique. Even though we speak the same language, it's very unique, and the culture is definitely different. It's really cool. The tea time, all that stuff is like the traditions of England and the UK is awesome. So yeah, can't wait.
Ronnie was big into it, wasn't he? He was big into the Guinness, the beer, the curry. He loved all of that. Were there any specific aspects of English culture which you took to? I mean, I think you mentioned bangers and mash.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let John tell you after. I just want to say one thing. It's from being in England that I actually got an appreciation for soccer.
Oh wow!
I really didn't understand it for many years. Even when I'd been coming to the UK for quite some time with Whitesnake, and on a day off we'd go, and you know, it'd be England, I remember we were in Wales once, and it was England versus somebody, I forget, maybe it was England and Wales, if that was possible. I don't remember.
Yeah, possible.
But it was just like the English were so into it, and I was trying to understand. I didn't know what offsides was or any of this stuff. And you know, and it was, now I get it. Now I've learned about it, and it's my kind of my funnest, my favorite sport right now.
Have you got a team? Do you follow a specific team? Please tell me it's not Manchester United.
No, I have to be very careful. First of all, my wife is German, so we have to go with the German national team, or her team is FC Cologne, which they've had a rough few years. But Glenn Hughes' team is the Wolves. I got friends. I got a married couple that are friends of John and ours. That the wife is Everton and the husband's Liverpool. So we love Leeds. We love Arsenal. We love Newcastle. We got tons of fans in Newcastle. Yes, we got tons of fans in Manchester. But they got two teams, right?
Yeah, City and United.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot. We just basically love it. I was watching the England-Spain game, and Will Palmer put in that equalizer that was just badass, and then the Spanish took over after that. But you know, it's because of being in England, my English friends, that I actually learned about soccer.
What about you, John? An English item of culture that you...
I'm still trying to find out, like Doug mentioned earlier, the fact that we speak the same language, but I always seem to get in trouble with, you know, I remember my first trip there. We played a show at the Astoria Theater with the Scream.
Yeah.
And then our drummer, God bless his soul, Walt, he's passed away probably 7-8 years ago. But he was like, I cannot go back to America without having a Newcastle Brown and a whiskey. So, like a dumbass, I decided to go with him to the Marquee Club. A band called Tiger Tails was playing.
Oh, yeah. Remember them?
Yeah. And we're sitting at the bar, and we had one, and we're like, fuck it, let's have another one. Let's have another one. Let's have another one. At this point, we're shit-faced, and this guy came up to us in a pair of like zebra print leotards and hair like out to here. And he comes over and he goes, "Got a fag?" And I looked at him and I said, could you say that one more time? And he goes, go a fag. And I said, okay, slow, one more time. And he goes, go a fag. And Walt said, what is he saying? And I go, I don't know, dude, but I think he's calling us fag. and we kicked the shit out of this guy. We got thrown out of the marquee. And then there's things like fanny packs, which, you know, or a makeup artist. I once told a makeup artist that she could, because I already had some makeup on. I said, you can touch me up first. And she stormed the room. You know, so soccer, like all the other shit, put it to the side. I'm still trying to figure out the slang.
Brilliant. Lastly then, last thing. Is there anything left then for you guys that you would like to achieve on a personal level in the music business? Not like a number one. Is there somebody that you would love to collaborate with that you've never worked with before? And I mean, it can be something completely off the scale. I mean, when I asked Michael Schenker this not that long ago, he said he'd always wanted to collaborate with Rod Stewart. And Carmine Appice said to me, well, he said, the one thing I always wanted to do, he said, was play with the Police. So is there anything you'd really love to do?
Well, me personally, I think about, like, I'm just enjoying the ride. You know, we never know exactly what's going to happen in this life.
Yeah,
and,
true.
So, you know, if you would have told me when I first met John that we'd still be working together and we'd be getting ready to come and play the UK on a brand new record, I would have been like, and how old am I again? And it would have been, I would have been like, that would have surpassed my bucket list. So I don't know if I can really say, like, of course, yes, I would love to have dinner with Andy Summers and have dinner with Andy Summers and David Gilmour and talk about things. But I mean, you never know. It might not be Andy Summers. It might be it might be somebody else. You know, that you know, Jimmy Page might show up and say, "Hey guys, you know, I really like that song on the new record. Let's go have a curry or something." You know, who knows?
John?
Well, you know, personally, you know, unfortunately, Doug's had the opportunity to meet Jimmy Page. I've never met him. I have met Steven Tyler. But I would love nothing more than to either sit down and try and write one song with either Jimmy Page, Steven Tyler, or Paul McCartney.
Perfect.
That sounds
Brilliant.
good. But can I add one thing? I gotta be honest. Jimmy Page did ask me at one point. He said, "Hey, this guy Corabi, how is he?" And I go, "He's crap. He's very difficult to work with. You don't want it." He goes, "I'm looking for somebody to write with." I go, "Yeah, I don't know about Corabi. He's not really I don't think he would like what you got going on, Jimmy, and you probably wouldn't like what he's got going on." So it came close to happening, but I put the kibosh on it.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
Basically, Corabi wears a fanny pack.
And he doesn't want to have a fag, so. You know.
And I just got to mention, lastly, because you brought it up. When can we expect to hear the blues album? And is this an album of blues covers, or is this an album of your own blues originals?
No, we. You know, it was funny when we were down in Fame Studios. It's actually weird. The studio is fully functional, but it's also a museum. Mm. And so we were just kind of looking at these photos of, well, this one room that we were part of this room that we were in. If you watch the documentary, Duane Allman was kind of discovered there. And then it got to the point where, like, when they would tour, they would go there and rehearse in this one room. So there's all these amazing photos of like the Allman Brothers and Aretha Franklin and just all these legendary artists that have been through the doors of that place. And we just kind of started jamming, and you know, all the bands that we grew up listening to, you know, Rolling Stones, Zeppelin, Aerosmith, like they all cut their teeth on all this killer old blues stuff.
Yeah.
We've made it a point, every record we try to do a cover. It was a to, you know, like if you look at our record, we've done some Beatles songs, we've done some Creedence, The Who, Grand Funk. So we just said, okay, you know what? Let's go back a step further, and let's do some songs that influenced that we grew up listening to. So we went back and we found like some killer old Robert Johnson stuff, Muddy Waters, Alan Wolf, Rufus Thomas, B.B. King, and but I think a purist is going to listen to this stuff and go, well, they're not using like all these old amps and different things like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
We tried to use like without sounding, you know, weird here, but we took our mindset. Like if you look at When the Levee Breaks by Zeppelin, if you listen to the original, the melody is the same, the lyrics are the same, but they redid the music and just made it that much more powerful. So we kind of did the same thing. We sat in this room and we jammed. We came up with these awesome parts, and we just kind of almost like we kind of said, what would Zeppelin do on these tracks? So we're excited, man. It's really cool. Everybody came to the table. Everybody kicked ass, and it's going to be a lot of fun.